To understand neural network models, let's briefly talk about biological neural networks, our brain. Welcome to Millen's podcast, a space where ideas unfold like stories, where knowledge flows effortlessly, and where we explore the frontiers of nature, science, and the spirit with a sense of wonder. In the brain, neurons are the fundamental units of the nervous system. They are connected via synapses, which are junction points that allow signals to be transmitted from one neuron to another. Dendrites, branch-like structures that receive input signals from other neurons' axons. Cell body contains the nucleus and processes input signals. Axon, a long fiber that carries the output signal to other neurons' dendrites. Synapse, the junction between an axon terminus and a dendrite. Neurotransmitter chemicals are released here to excite or inhibit the receiving neuron. Neurons form incredibly complex networks with billions of cells and trillions of synapses. The connection strengths, synaptic weights, are modified through processes like long-term potentiation and depression, enabling learning and memory. Artificial neural networks. In ENS, artificial neurons nodes are connected to form layered network structures. Each neuron receives weighted inputs from neurons in the previous layer, applies an activation function, and passes the output to the next layer. Input layer receives external input data analogous to sensory input in the brain. Hidden layers process and transform the input signal. Each neuron applies weights to inputs, sums them, and passes the result through a nonlinear activation function. Output layer produces the final output of the network analogous to an action or decision. Connections, weighted links between neurons that determine the strength of influence from one neuron to another. These are analogous to synaptic weights. During training, the network learns by adjusting connection weights via backpropagation and gradient descent, minimizing the error between predicted and target outputs. This is loosely analogous to synaptic plasticity in the brain. Convolutional neural networks, CNNs. CNNs are designed to process grid-like data such as images. They consist of convolutional layers, pooling layers, and fully connected layers. Convolutional layer applies learned filters to input, producing feature maps that highlight certain patterns. Each neuron connects to a local region of the input. Weights are shared across spatial dimensions. Pooling layer downsamples feature maps by taking the max or average over small regions. This reduces spatial dimensions and provides translation invariance. Fully connected layers flatten feature maps and learn global patterns for final classification or regression output. Recurrent neural networks, RNNs. RNNs process sequential data by maintaining a hidden state that gets updated at each time step. This allows them to capture temporal dependencies. Neurons are arranged in a chain, with each neuron receiving input from the current step and the hidden state from the previous step. Weights are shared across time steps. The hidden state acts as a form of memory, allowing information to persist. Variants like LSTMs and GRUs use gating mechanisms to better control information flow and mitigate vanishing gradients. Transformers. Transformers use attention mechanisms to process sequences without recurrence. They consist of stacked encoder and decoder layers. Encoder processes input sequence and generates contextualized representations, contains self-attention and feed-forward layers. Self-attention allows each position to attend to all other positions, capturing global dependencies. Feed-forward applies nonlinear transformations to attended representations. Decoder generates output sequence one element at a time, attending to encoder representations and its own previous outputs. Within each sublayer, attention, queries, keys and values are computed from input embeddings using learned linear projections. Attention weights are then calculated as the scaled dot product of queries and keys and used to compute a weighted sum of values. Layer norm and residual connections applied around each sublayer, normalizing activations and allowing gradients to flow directly through the network. Positional encodings. Since attention is order invariant, explicit positional information is injected by adding fixed or learned positional vectors to input embeddings. The attention mechanism allows transformers to parallelize computation and learn very long-range dependencies efficiently, revolutionizing natural language processing and expanding to other domains like vision and speech. Let's look at use cases for all models. BVS recurrent neural networks, RNNs. RNNs are well suited for sequence data and problems where context and temporal dependencies matter. 1. Language modeling. Predicting the next word in a sentence or generating coherent text. RNNs can capture the contextual dependencies between words. Word 2 is machine translation. Translating text from one language to another. The RNN processes the input sentence and generates the translated output sentence, maintaining context throughout. 3. Speech recognition. Converting spoken words into text. RNNs can handle the temporal structure of audio signals and map them to corresponding text transcriptions. 4. Sentiment analysis. Classifying the sentiment of text as positive, negative, or neutral. RNNs can consider the entire sequence of words to infer the overall emotional tone. 5. Nemesis, video classification. Analyzing sequences of video frames for tasks like activity recognition or anomaly detection. RNNs process the temporal evolution of visual features. Liaison convolutional neural networks, CNNs. CNNs excel at processing grid-like data such as images and excel at learning hierarchical spatial features. 1. Image classification. Assigning labels to images based on their content. CNNs learn to recognize patterns and objects at various levels of abstraction. 2. Object detection. Identifying and localizing objects within an image. CNNs can detect multiple objects and draw bounding boxes around them. 3. Semantic segmentation. Assigning a class label to each pixel in an image. CNNs can perform dense predictions, classifying every pixel into categories like road, car, pedestrian, etc. 4. Facial recognition. Identifying or verifying individuals based on their facial features. CNNs can learn a compact representation of faces for comparison and matching. 5. Medical image analysis. Detecting anomalies, segmenting anatomical structures, or classifying medical images like X-rays, CT scans, or MRIs. CNNs can identify subtle patterns indicative of diseases. Folks, transformers. Transformers have revolutionized natural language processing and are expanding to other domains. 1. Language understanding. Pre-training large language models like BERT or GPT on massive text corpora to learn rich linguistic representations. These models can then be fine-tuned for various downstream tasks. 2. Text generation. Generating human-like text for applications like chatbots, story generation, or language translation. Models like GPT-3 can generate coherent and contextually relevant text. 3. Named entity recognition. Identifying and classifying named entities like people, organizations, or locations in text. Transformer-based models can capture long-range dependencies to improve entity recognition accuracy. 4. Question answering. So, finding relevant answers to questions within a given text. Transformers can attend to all parts of the input to locate the most relevant information for answering. 5. Image captioning. Generating natural language descriptions of images. Transformer-based architectures like Vision Transformers, VIT, can process images and generate captions capturing their content. In summary, all the neural network models we looked at mimic our neural brains to a certain extent. Each model has its own uses cases. This is Melin's podcast. Subscribe for receiving our future episodes.